thanks to my Ko-fi supporters that make these videos possible. You can also get a deck review on my weekly Tuesday and Sunday streams. It's the best way to support the channel. Hello everyone. You guys really seem to enjoy this format, and I've honestly been enjoying my last few unscripted videos as well, so I figured why not just keep doing what's working instead of fixing something that isn't broken? I don't know, I feel like really dirty, like making a video not using a script, but also it's been a lot of fun to get community responses and then reply to them completely blind in like an unscripted kind of format. So I think we have a good formula here. Let's keep the ball rolling and see how it goes. So I asked my Discord a simple question. What's the most annoying archetype of deck to play against? And a follow-up question, what pet peeve cards do you have? Basically focusing in on the annoying aspects you find to exist in Commander. If you want to participate in future videos, by the way, please join the Discord. It's as simple as typing ELK into the join Discord server thingy, or you can follow the link in the description below. First up by Stormrider, a bit of an honorable mention here, is mentioning Oubliette as a card that is hated. I really agree. Oubliette's pretty gnarly. It's one of these like Song of the Dryad cards that like imprisons your commander, but it doesn't even let you use like a bounce land to get out of it or like anything like that. You need enchantment removal, which is so hard to answer, especially if it's like a Tyam deck. Like, how are you supposed to answer the Oubliette without first answering the Tyam that can return it from the graveyard repeatedly? So it's mostly white and green that can kind of deal with Oubliette, and then the other colors just kind of get owned. Like red has exactly Chaos Warp. Black has 2 ways to destroy it. So if you're recurring Oubliette with any amount of value, that is going to be a very annoying card for sure. But moving on to the topic at hand with archetypes that are pet peeves for people, we have Mining Lad with Dice Factory is definitely the worst, which I mean, makes me feel a little bad because I used to have a Dice Factory deck with Tekethal. It was Tekethal Proliferation Dice Factory. So that those that don't know what Dice Factory is, it is an artifact combo deck, non-deterministic, where you have Astral Cornucopia and these other types of like mana battery rocks that hold charge counters or something. So it's Everflowing Chalice, Astral Cornucopia, Empowered Auto Generator, these kinds of cards that tap for mana equal to the number of counters on them, and then you proliferate the counters on them, and then you untap them, and then you tap them again, and then typically in Modern, the way you do that is Paradox Engine, but of course that's banned in Commander. So you're typically relying on Manifold Keys and stuff with like an Astral Cornucopia that you've proliferated up to like 200 counters or something. You have Core Tapper that puts charge counters on things, right? There's all these ways to move counters around and then just put them all on one giant artifact and then move them over to a Magistrate Scepter, right, to take infinite turns. Basically, it's like a really like convoluted deck, and the reason why the name is Dice Factory is an homage to that. The fact that you have so many dice or like spin downs on your cards, it's a dice factory, get it? Going back to my flowchart video, the reason why non-deterministic combo decks were under I don't want the table to hate me, but like not all the way, is because I don't think any non-deterministic Storm player like this goes in thinking I'm going to take a 20-minute turn and monopolize everyone's time. They kind of just want to explode the table. And so I feel really bad saying that it is an annoying archetype to play against, because on one hand, I feel like every Storm player goes in with the best of intentions. It's just like, it is a lot of fun to think out a Storm turn, especially a non-deterministic one, but it's also like 20 minutes of your turn. And the thing is that like, it's not even like hemming and hawing. It's like most of the time, the 20 minutes is entirely well used. Like 20 minutes is you doing your fastest without like much pausing, which is pretty funny to me. I don't know. I really like non-deterministic Storm for that reason. I find it endearing. You really start to empathize with the Storm player once you've played Storm for any amount of time, and you just like see them trying to pop off and you're like, yeah, you got it, buddy. You start thinking about the lines you would have taken in their turn. Anyway, moving on. I love Dice Factory, so I cannot stand for this slander. Next up, we have Selkie Smasher. What an awesome username, aka 22cat with haste in the Discord. Control. Always control. Especially when they pack all the Force of Wills and free counterspells in the world. Okay, here's where I'm going to kind of go to bat for free spells again. I actually really enjoy free spells quite a bit. I think they do lead to healthy play patterns when the games are more powerful. And they have a bit more of a deck building cost, at least in certain decks, than you might like first see. Of course, they're powerful, right? They would not be played at the highest echelons of the format if they were not powerful. That being said, their power does feel like a thing that you can track. And I can see where the frustration's coming from. So let's go POV the player getting counterspelled. You see a tapped out opponent, you play your spell, you get counterspelled. That feels, pretty bad. But let's flip perspective to the person countering you. You cast your big stompy thing that's going to kill them. They pitch a Force of Will. They pay 1 life, and not that big of a deal. That one doesn't matter that much. But they also pitch something like a Stock Up. They've now effectively pitched like 3 cards to counter your card. That's kind of tough, especially if that's their only pitch target. So like in a mono blue deck, Force of Will gets a lot better, of course, because your entire deck is blue, presuming you're not running a lot of artifacts or what have you. But in a 3-color deck, it's like, oh, the only blue card in my hand is my like best card. Do I really want to pitch it to counter the spell? This is the kind of position that pitch spells put you in. And people say, oh, but you're in blue, so pitch spells are therefore a lot easier to cast. Yes, right? Blue gets card advantage pretty hard, but if the blue player gets so much card advantage, they're already winning that game anyway, right? So it's at a point where it's so win more when the pitch spell is at its peak because, oh my goodness, the blue player has 60 cards in hand. Like, you're going to lose that game anyway without the pitch magic. Like, 60 cards in hand. Regardless, I really enjoyed the cat and mouse game of like baiting out counter magic, even while the mana's tapped out at higher level formats. This is where I'm like kind of sympathetic. I do think bracket level 2, you've had a couple beers or something. It's a little bit more hard to track these sorts of things. And also it can be exhausting to be like deploying your less fun threat just to try and bait out the counterspell because the blue player has 2 or more cards in hand, right? And I do got to say that the dynamic of pitch magic is definitely a lot more healthy in 60 card formats than in Commander, where Commander is 4-player. It feels a lot more bad to have your spell countered. You watch 2 opponents develop more, and then you and the person that pitch cast are left in the mud. Versus a 1v1 situation where like at least you turned your spell into a Hymn to Torok. Like that 1-for-2 exchange is going to matter in the long run. Versus Commander, you're going to watch 2 other opponents develop ahead of you while you and that opponent that pitch cast you kind of wallow in the mud, all things being equal. So I definitely see where the frustration comes from. To have it be your least favorite thing to run into, I think is definitely like a bit much though, is all I'm saying. Let me know if you disagree in the comments below though. Hopefully you can hear where I'm coming from with all that. Next up is Colt, who says, Cascade decks are annoying to play against, but fun to play. As with just about any deck with a lot of triggers. And I gotta say, I agree. This is directed at you, Christian, my regular Cascade Railstrom Wielder playgroup enjoyer. That deck looks so much fun to play where you cascade into like 50 different things. But the fact that every single one of your cards is 3 cards makes it unanswerable in the late game. Like, it is so hard to keep pace with you with any amount of decks, including Cormella, by the way. Cormella, which is packed full of giant instants and sorceries, like 9 drops and stuff, like so greedy, isn't as greedy somehow as your Cascade deck. Insane mechanic. Anyway, I just wanted to vent. No, generally I agree. It's like resolving triggers is so hard, especially if you're like in a Panharmonicon mass flicker. Like, resolve a Rise of the Dark Realms in less than 3 minutes after like a 1-hour game. I'm begging you. It's like, it's impossible. I see a lot of people mentioning mill here, and I literally like cannot understand why. This is something I've seen actually pop up with randoms before, where I'm playing Farrakha. I used to run things like I Blight Pixie. It's the one fairy that's like, it's a 1/1-for-1, and when it attacks and hits someone, it makes everyone mill 1. And I used to play the Harpy as well, the 4-mana enchantment Harpy that at the beginning of combat on your turn mills everyone for 3, so it could stock up my opponent's graveyards to exile cards with Farrakha. Neardine, my editor, you know what those cards are, just put them on the screen. But basically, I used to run a lot of group mill that would mill the entire table, just like incrementally here and there, so I could give them snakes with Farrakha. And I think the 3 games I drew them, I had at least one person in that game go, oh, dude, he's milling us. We need to kill him, like with randoms online. And I was just so blown away because legitimately, milling is helping you. When you get cards milled into your graveyard is a place where recursion can happen generally, for most colors too. Blue can retrieve instants and sorceries, so can red. Black retrieves creatures, so does green retrieves everything. And it's only really red, or I guess white. No, white reaches into the graveyard too for small things. Like literally every color reaches into the graveyard for something. So if you run any amount of cards in your deck that care about your graveyard, you getting milled is actually a good thing, because instead of being on the bottom of your library, those cards are in your graveyard. And that's really how you have to think about it. Think about the cards being milled as being cards on the bottom of your library. The only instance where this doesn't matter is when you need to tutor for something. Like you get your silver bullet like milled or something, right? Like you have a Lauren and you wanted to tutor for it, but now it's in your graveyard. That's the only instance I can think about where it's like, oh, that kind of is a bummer, but then you just go grab a different legendary. Like I'm sure Lauren wasn't your only legendary, or like, you know, Recruiter of the Guardable. So you're able to still tutor for other things. It's just like, mill is actually generally just horrific. So the fact that it makes so many people salty, especially since you can mentally compartmentalize the card just being on the bottom of your deck instead. Like, the mill made the card easier to retrieve for you. Why are we salting off about mill? I really don't get it, guys. Please, can you explain in greater detail? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, mathematically, it doesn't matter. Next up is We Shall All Be Healed, who says, I heavily dislike decks with explosive value engine commanders like Joda, because the only way to correctly play into him is just to not let them play the game at all, which is usually not fun for anyone. And yeah, generally I agree. This is like the one Umezawa card that gives everyone ninjutsu. Joda is a very good example, yes. Specifically the Jeskai Joda that makes all of your spells cost Wooburg instead of their normal mana value. Anything like this, just like Kalia is another good example. Just like you mulligan for removal in your opening hand, and then you wait for them to play their commander, and then you shoot it in the head. And then you repeat that 3 more times until they can't play anymore. This is especially gnarly when you pair it with a bad attitude. If they're ever like, dude, can you let me do my thing? It's always just like, if letting you do your thing wins you the game, then no. And it's going to win you the game. Like, you're going to put Avacyn into play with Kalia. Now she's unanswerable. And then that's going to snowball to the point where I can't win the game, period. So if you want to play Kalia, like, I recommend making Kalia into like a reanimator deck, right? So even if Kalia gets shot, you can still have this reanimation plan with like maybe some controlling, like slow the game down a little bit elements, so that way your big threats can close it out. And then Kalia at that point is just a backup plan for if you don't draw any of the reanimation stuff. Or at the very least, if you're going to play a Feast or Famine deck like this, that if it gets its ankle rolled, it gets exploded, embrace it. You need to just embrace it and like not salt off when someone answers you. And I'm not saying that's like you, Kalia player listening at home, right? But I'm saying in general, you should maybe just embrace the fact that your deck is fragile and be like, yeah, no, you removed my commander. That's a fair play. Because, gosh, the last thing someone wants to hear is when they've been forced into doing this action of removing your commander because it's just way too scary. You going, oh, why'd you have to do that, man? Like, come on, dude. Like, I cannot stand those people. It's horrible to play against. Next up from Takurb, Super Friends. Too many fucking words that so often basically do nothing. Slows the game down while trying to figure out what the fuck each of them does, and then slows the game down even more when you gotta decide which one to swing into because of like actual life totals. It's like finding a needle in the haystack, figuring which one of the 15 paragraphs on the table actually raises a threat. I agree, and I also extend this to Sagas. Sagas has a lot of triggers, and it feels kind of like a Cascade deck in a similar way, where if you have like 6 Sagas on the board, and then Tom Bombadil triggers when like 3 of them leave that turn, and then you have like 3 more triggers because of that, that's really annoying. And Planeswalkers feels very similar in a way, where it's like, you have a bunch of abilities to activate now instead of a bunch of triggers to resolve. And it could be a real headache to like resolve properly. So I do feel like this answers in the same vein as the Cascade deck, where it's like, oh, it's a ton of fun to play a Planeswalker deck, right? You have so many options, so many choices, but it actually slows the game down a lot. Even more so than like a toolbox deck, I'm willing to actually say too. I know Tutor Boy is going to bat for tutors once again, but generally speaking, when you tutor for a card, you kind of know what you're getting if you built the deck and have played it for a long time. With Planeswalkers, it's kind of like the situation's different all the time. Like, you're not going to cast the tutor unless you know what you want to get. But a Planeswalker in play, you need to activate that every turn, regardless of like whether or not you know what to use it on. So the fact that a Planeswalker in play loses value if you don't use it versus a tutor not losing value, right? It's still just a card in your hand. It's still a resource that you can tap into when you need it. A tutor's used with intentionality. A Planeswalker sitting in play is not. At least not after the first turn you've played it. Where it's like, okay, I removed the thing with the removal ability of the Planeswalker. Now I need a plus at every turn. Oh, it has a second ability I can also maybe do if I decided to do that instead. And its static ability. And then once you compound that by like 4 more, oh my god, nightmare. It's like actually like rather difficult to resolve a Planeswalker deck versus a tutor, right? Anyway, yes, it's a pretty annoying archetype. I do appreciate people who can play it fast, though. It also gets worse when they start proliferating and stuff, too. Oh, my god. Anyway, there's some annoying Planeswalker decks out there, and I think they kind of like being annoying, too. I want to kind of shift our lens a little bit more to the second question now, which is cards that are pet peeves. So we're going to kind of lens into that question in particular. First up, we have Katie Brained, who says, I think counterspells are really cool and allow for in-depth interaction between players, and Ward can completely turn that off. Even worse, permanents that say, opponents can't cast spells on your turn. I think I tend to dislike any cards that discourage interaction as opposed to encouraging it. This includes cards like Maze of Ith, Ghostly Prison, and Propaganda. I want the game to be as interactive as possible because I can play the game to the highest amount. Sure, it sucks to have my commander killed the turn it comes out, but what's worse is having my commander out and not being able to do anything at all. It's probably a skill issue at a certain point, but I'd rather just segue into this video's sponsor, which I don't have one, I guess, besides like Dragon Shield, who sponsors all the videos, but thank you for the layup, but sadly no video sponsor this time around. So yes, I do love counterspells. Counterspells are one of my favorite things in Magic. Ignore the Quips and Guac video. Oh my gosh. Hard disagree there, pal. Sorry. You made a stinker there. That being said, I love Grand Abolisher type effects, and I really am not too sure why there's like a hatred for them, because if anything, they're telling you use your counterspell now. And they also tell you you need to have more interaction besides counterspells. Like, you need ways to answer permanents on board. It just kind of sounds like you're a blue player, in all honesty. And you got to run your bounce spells to answer my stuff sometimes, I think. That being said, though, I really do enjoy these Grand Abolisher effects because it asks, do you have a kill spell to kill it during your turn, or a counter spell and a backup one to counter this? Like, they're powerful, don't get me wrong, but I don't necessarily think powerful here equates to bad. I really enjoy these cards that are able to put up a wall of protection and say, no, you're not allowed to counter this play, watch me. Or, like, you can counter my play, but it's going to cost you an extra counter spell because you need to counter the Grand Abolisher on the stack and then counter my play. As far as Ghostly Prison, Maze of Ith, and Propaganda, it's really just a test of whether or not you have decent removal. And I genuinely like these kinds of cards, not in my decks, because I genuinely think they're kind of bad, but like, I don't have to swing at you. And instead what I can do is I can snowball up my board, make it a 1-swing lethal, and then just shoot the Propaganda and attack you with it, right? Like, there's play patterns around the Propaganda that makes it like kind of nullified in a way. Regardless, let's move on. Next up, we have 01 Wizard, aka Hex, who says, God, easily my biggest pet peeve card is Tempt with Discovery and similar cards like Expropriate. I have gone on record already saying I hate Expropriate. Just cannot stand the card. I don't even have it in Cormello, which is my big spells deck. And the same thing is true with Tempt with Discovery. I just find these cards to have such miserable play patterns on either side of the table. Well, when you're casting it, it feels kind of good. But when you're up against it, it's like, oh, it's time to vote for this option, guys. It's pretty obvious. And then the whole table goes, no, I think we're going to throw this game instead. The fact that they even have the power to do that is just so frustrating to me. The fact that I can lose just because someone else decided to vote wrong is insane. And some people will counter argue and say, oh, but removal's the same way if they remove the wrong thing. But at least that isn't like inherent to the card's existence. Like a removal spell can be used good or bad. Yes. Do you know what's always bad? Tempt with Discovery. Do you know what's always bad? Expropriate. When they resolve, it's always horrific. I've been teleported into like a Mandela effect universe sometimes when Expropriate's on the stack, where Time Walk is a worse card than Control Magic. Oh, but I don't want them to take my commander. And then you give them an extra turn and they win with it. Like, oh, I wish I could hive mind these people sometimes. Moving on, we have 8/8 Octopus, aka Trox Velkozfan. Oh my goodness, that's a hard one. Who just says time wasting decks. If you want to make me resolve something that takes more than 2 minutes to resolve, I ain't playing. And then there's a picture of Scrambleverse, which is based. Yeah, exactly. Scrambleverse is very annoying to play against. It's just kind of a nothing card. I'm not a big fan of it whatsoever. The fact that you're able to just for 8 mana go, okay, I'm not winning with this 8 mana, but everything that is in play is just going crazy and going to someone else. Like, I'm not doing all that. It is definitely very annoying. That card is just kind of like, I don't even know how you break parity with it. It's very difficult to imagine a world where Scrambleverse is like a cool and interesting play is my main gripe with it. It mostly just wastes time, especially when there's like a token player. Oh. Lastly, we have Just Rowdy, aka 00 Slime with Trample, who says that token decks annoy me, specifically make stuff decks when people aren't on top of their triggers. But specifically, they're shouting out here Cathar's Crusade as a card that annoys the hell out of them. And I gotta agree. Cathar's Crusade is one of these cards that is just immediately turns a tokens deck into that Planeswalker or Saga deck problem, where it's like every single creature has 15,000 triggers and I need to turn all these spin downs. And now I made 3 more tokens, so I need to turn all these spin downs. Like when Cathar's Crusade isn't used in a combo in the deck, I would almost always rather be running, and this includes for me too, I'm not trying to like prescribe to you this, I would almost always rather run Gold Knight Commander, which is a temporary version of the effect. We also just got Kin Binding, I believe it's called. Hang on, I'm literally typing this in Scryfall right now. Yeah, Kin Binding from Lorwyn. Creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control that entered the battlefield this turn, and you get a free Kithkin every combat. So you're bare minimum getting +1/+1, but if you make like 3 tokens on your first main phase or during combat, like with an Adeline, you'll get like +4/+4, which is typically enough to kill people. It will kill people, and especially if you make more. So instead of having to deal with the headache of counters and stuff, you can instead just track this one thing that's just like, it's a fixed Cathar's Commando. I think even Morrow said that, or Gavin Verhey was like, oh, we wanted to design a fixed Cathar's Commando with Kin Binding, because it's just actually that annoying to track. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble. Please let me know what you think about these sort of unscripted community talking videos and stuff. Join the Discord if you want to participate in future videos like this, if there are any. Yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble about this stuff. It's always super sweet to see the comments of people enjoying these kinds of videos and stuff. Hooray!